Young man from Milwaukee who grew up a Bucks fan.
Bam Adebayo hit Tyler Herro, and the NBA just looked at it, thought about it for 6 days, and decided, that's fine. No suspension, nothing at all. Two former teammates, 7 years side by side in Miami.
Yeah, it's all love. It's all love in Miami. I've seen a couple of the guys.
And 1 month after the trade that tore them apart, one of them struck the other in the head, in a hotel gym, in Las Vegas, in front of witnesses. And the league's official answer is, everybody just move on. Now, when I first read that statement, I thought it was insane. A max player swings on a former teammate, and the response is a paragraph? But then I actually dug into why the NBA made this exact call. And it tells you something about how this league really operates. Something most fans never think about. So let's start with that Friday morning in Vegas, because the details are even wilder than the headline. It's July 10th, just after 9 in the morning. It's Summer League weekend, which means half the basketball world is in Las Vegas. And here's the detail that made this whole thing possible. The Heat and the Bucks both stay at the same hotel, Resorts World, same building, same practice court. Tyler Herro had been working out on that court earlier in the morning, and he stuck around afterward for a practice with his own AAU program. And then the Miami Heat walk in to train on the exact same floor. Bam Adebayo sees Herro, and instead of a handshake, instead of a nod, he walks straight over to confront him about what Herro had been saying online.
Father, I'm back home. I'm super excited to be back home.
Herro says something back. Bam takes exception to it. And then it turns physical. Now, I want to be careful here, because the exact details are genuinely disputed, and this channel doesn't do rumors dressed up as facts. Sources told ESPN's Shams Charania that Adebayo struck Herro in the head area. Later reporting from ESPN narrowed it to somewhere near the chin. Yahoo Sports described it differently. A shove to the face first, and then a swing that connected. 3 descriptions, 1 incident, and no public video anywhere. But here's what every single account agrees on. Herro did not go down, and he never got the chance to respond because other people in that gym physically held him back. So picture that scene for a second. The captain of the Miami Heat, one of the best defensive players alive, swinging on a guy who wore that same jersey for 7 straight years. That doesn't happen over nothing, and it didn't. Because to understand why Bam was that angry, you need to see the receipts. This didn't start in a gym. It started on Instagram. After Herro got traded to Milwaukee, screenshots leaked of direct messages between Herro and a fan he had apparently been going back and forth with for months. And in those alleged messages, Herro didn't just vent about the trade, he went after Bam's money. The alleged line, should an elite defender be making $60 million a year? He insisted he never said any names. He didn't need to. Everybody in basketball knew exactly which $60 million defender in Miami he meant. And just to put that number in perspective, $60 million a year is more than what some entire NBA rosters cost back in the early 2000s. One salary, a whole team's worth of money. That's the size of the target Herro painted on his former teammate's back. And the shot was even more personal than it looks. Because it was a direct response to something Bam himself had said. After the Heat got eliminated in the play-in this past season, Adebayo publicly suggested he needed more help from his supporting cast if Miami wanted to get back into real contention. The captain, telling the world the roster wasn't good enough. And according to team sources in ESPN's reporting, that exact refrain wore on Herro. Because think about what he was living through at the time. He was fighting his way back from ankle, toe, and rib injuries. He was hearing his own name in Giannis trade rumors as far back as February. He was watching his franchise openly shop him. And then, it actually happened. Herro got shipped to Milwaukee as part of the blockbuster that sent Giannis Antetokounmpo to Miami. A deal built around him, plus draft capital. 7 years in Miami. A 6th Man of the Year award in 2022. An All-Star selection in the 2024-25 season. And in the end, he was the price tag. Here's the detail that makes it sting even more. Heat sources told ESPN that Bam and Herro had a mostly good relationship during their years as teammates. This wasn't two enemies finally colliding. This was a friendship dying in public.
He ain't gonna win. Which camera I look at? This your camera too?
So the DMs weren't random trash talk. They were a wound talking. But what happened just a few hours after the punch? That might be the most surreal part of this entire story. Because that same Friday, the Heat played the Bucks in Summer League at the Thomas and Mack Center, and Tyler Herro, hours after being struck by his former captain, walks into that arena and sits down courtside. Then he goes on the live broadcast, mid-game, cameras on, and when they ask him if it's awkward seeing his old team, he smiles and says, "It's all love in Miami. All love." Hours after taking a hit to the face from Miami's captain. The news hadn't broken yet. Herro knew. Bam knew. The Heat knew. The audience watching at home had absolutely no idea. And while Herro was saying that on camera, ESPN reported that multiple Miami coaches were glued to their phones during the game because they could feel the story about to detonate. The Heat won that game 119-86, by the way, 33 points. And nobody on earth remembers a single second of it. After the final buzzer, Herro dapped up the Bucks' young Summer League players, had a chat on the court with his old teammate Jaime Jaquez Jr., and walked out of the building without saying one word about Bam. The Bucks said nothing. Their new head coach, Taylor Jenkins, went on Sirius XM radio and offered a no comment, admitting he didn't even know the specifics yet. And the Miami Heat's entire official response to their captain striking a former player? 6 words. "We are aware and not commenting." Then the whole league went quiet and waited to see what the front office on Fifth Avenue would do. 6 days later, we got the answer. And that answer is the reason this video exists. Thursday, July 16th. An NBA spokesperson gives a statement to Shams Charania. The league says it spoke with both players involved. It says it spoke with the Players Union, the NBPA. And then it delivers the conclusion. In its own words, no further action will be taken by the league. The stated reasoning? Everyone involved would prefer to move on from the situation. That's it. That is the complete ruling. No fine. No suspension. Not even a formal reprimand. A franchise centerpiece struck a former teammate, and the entire consequence fits inside one sentence. And notice what that statement does not say. It doesn't say the reports were wrong. It doesn't say nothing happened. It doesn't defend Bam at all. It simply says that everyone at the table, 2 players, 1 union, 1 league office, chose silence over consequences. So now we get to the real question. The one this whole video has been building toward. Why? Why did the most image-conscious league in American sports, a league that fines players for tugging a jersey too hard, look at this and do nothing? And here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Because the NBA absolutely has the power to punish this. Don't let anybody tell you that off-court means untouchable. Ja Morant got 8 games for flashing a gun on Instagram Live. No game involved. No opponent involved. Then he did it again and got 25 more. The league called it conduct detrimental and dropped the hammer, twice, for things that happened nowhere near a basketball court. Go back further. In 1997, Latrell Sprewell put his hands on his own coach inside a closed practice, and it cost him 68 games. So the off-season excuse? The private gym excuse? Neither one is real protection. The difference here is what surrounded the incident. Reason number 1. There is no public video. Everything we know comes from anonymous sources, and their accounts genuinely conflict. Chin, head, shove, swing. Try suspending a max player based on disputed secondhand descriptions, and the appeal fight becomes a nightmare the league does not want. Reason number 2. The man who got hit doesn't want anything to happen. Herro told ESPN, "Honestly, I'm just trying to move past all of it." He said his entire focus is Milwaukee now. When the person on the receiving end is publicly waving it off, the case collapses on its own. Reason number 3. The union. The NBPA sat in those discussions, and both men in this story are its members. There was literally nobody at that table pushing for a punishment. And reason number 4. The precedent. Think back to Draymond Green and Jordan Poole. October 2022. Draymond punched his own teammate at practice, a clean connection, and there was actual leaked video that the entire planet watched. The league's response to that? Nothing. 0 games. They let the Warriors handle it internally. So follow the logic. If a punch caught on camera earned 0 league discipline, a disputed altercation with no footage was never, ever getting punished. The NBA has quietly drawn its line, and the line is this. What happens inside the family stays inside the family, unless the public forces their hand. But before you make up your mind about all of this, there's one more piece of the story that almost nobody is talking about. Bam's side. Because Bam Adebayo has not held a press conference. He hasn't posted a statement. His version of events reached the public through the strangest chain imaginable. Former NBA champion Danny Green said on his podcast that he sat down with Heat assistant coach Wayne Ellington, and Ellington had spoken directly with Bam about that morning. And according to that account, Bam believes the entire thing got hyped up way beyond what actually happened. The framing that came out of that conversation: sometimes you have to check your little brother. That's the whole philosophy. In Bam's world, this wasn't an assault. It was an older brother putting a younger one back in his place after the younger one talked reckless in public. And honestly, that framing is exactly why the league's decision sits so uncomfortably. Because flip the roles for a second. If a bench player had walked up and swung on a franchise captain, do we truly believe the response looks identical? Do we believe the file gets closed in 6 days? That's the question the NBA never has to answer. Because everyone involved agreed to move on. Understand what that means. The league didn't clear Bam. It didn't say he was right. It just closed the file. So where does this leave everybody? Start in Miami. The Heat just pushed every chip to the middle of the table. They traded for Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they're building a contender on a defensive identity anchored by Bam. He's the captain, he's the tone setter, he's the culture. And fair or not, the defining story of Miami's offseason is now that their tone setter settles arguments with his hands. That locker room adds the most dominant force of his generation this fall, and every camera in the building will be watching how Bam leads it. Now flip to Milwaukee. Herro is 26 years old, and he just went home. He's from Wisconsin, and he has said in the past that if he ever had to leave Miami, Milwaukee was the one place he wanted to be. He walks into a full rebuild, a franchise that just traded away the greatest player in its history. A young roster with fresh draft picks like Braden Burries and Nate Ament that he gets to lead. A new head coach in Taylor Jenkins with something to prove of his own. Every single ingredient to turn a public humiliation into fuel. Which brings us to the part I genuinely cannot wait for. The Heat and the Bucks play each other multiple times this coming season. Bam versus Herro. On national television. With an unresolved punch hanging in the air, and a league office praying it stays basketball. Circle those dates the moment the schedule drops. So here's my final verdict. The NBA didn't punish Bam Adebayo because there was no footage, no willing victim, no union pressure, and a Draymond-shaped precedent that made doing nothing the easiest call in the building. By the book, it's clean. And still, it just told every star in this league exactly how much room they have when the cameras are off. Herro says he's moving on. Bam says it wasn't that serious. The league says the file is closed. But this rivalry is not closed. This was the opening chapter. And the team standing at the center of it all, this new, Giannis-powered Miami Heat, might quietly be the most dangerous thing in the entire Eastern Conference. Tomorrow, I'm releasing my full breakdown of exactly what Giannis changes in Miami, and why this is not the same Heat team anybody remembers. You're going to want to see that one.